Hello, and welcome back to the Christian Life Coach podcast. I am Shanna Pizer, your Christian life coach. We talk about real life, real coaching, all from a place of wanting to be an example and to live in a way that honors God. So, today's topic is actually a little bit hysterical. I recorded this podcast yesterday morning, and I did so without my microphone being turned on. I did a little reel or a little video over on the Instagram and mentioned it. So here I am recording this over again, which is a little bit funny considering the topic. And I'm in a time crunch, so I'm going to try to talk fast. So today's topic is all about our expectations. One of my coaches in a coaching program that I am a part of is known for saying expectations are premeditated resentments. So, of course, I Google that quote, and the quote is unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. And the quote is attributed to Neil Strauss. I have no idea who he is. But it is so true. And I would even say, even spoken expectations are premeditated resentments because we cannot control anything outside of us, really. We can control our actions, we control our brains, we control the things that we think about, even though not everybody gets that or understands that or knows that or even believes that, but it is true. So basically, the most powerful thing we can control is the way that we think. And when we have expectations of other people, really spoken or unspoken, there's bound to be some resentment because people, life, it's just not always going to live up to our expectations, right? When we think things should go a certain way, that is an expectation. When we think somebody should do something or say something a certain way, that is an expectation. If we have a chore chart up for our kids saying, this is what you need to do, those are expectations. And I don't know about you, but there was a lot of resentment built up around that for a while. So, the way that we are thinking about what other people should be doing, the way that the world should be working, those are expectations. And the Bible says, hope deferred makes a heart sick. And the difference between hope and a wish is that element of expectation. Our hope is in Jesus because we believe that his word is true and we expect that God is who he says he is, that Jesus is coming back, that Jesus is our mediator between us and God, that he provided the way. Like those are our expectations, that God has a purpose and a plan for our life. We have hope, and within that hope is expectation. A wish is like, oh, it would be so great if this thing happened without expectation of it actually happening. So our expectations can really lead to resentment. And it can be little resentments, it can be little things like I am a person, it turns out, that expects babies to take naps in their cribs and to be on a somewhat schedule, some type of schedule so that they get their naps, and when I am watching them, they take a nap so I get an hour of time to do some work, to get some things done. And that expectation is not often met when I am taking care of my sweet baby boy, my grandson, because he fights napping. And so when I have the expectation that he is going to nap, I can get irritable. and like little resentment, not big resentment, little resentment, like, I really need to get this done. I can't do it when you're about up and about, whatever. So little things like that. And I do not resent my grandson. I adore him. I am so grateful that I'm at their house helping to take care of him. I've been here, it'll almost be 3 weeks before we leave this coming Sunday. So I am so blessed. It is in my gratitude journal every day in some form or another about how happy I am and thankful that I am to be able to be here. So I do not resent him at all. I do get a little irritable because I'm used to having all my time to myself. So it's a mind shift. It's managing my expectations, which is what this is all about. So it can be something like that, something like a baby not napping here and there, or it can be resentment that has been built up over time. And I think about in marriages when one partner's needs or desires or expectations are not being met over a long period of time and they have shut down and they have maybe stopped expecting things, that is kind of a long term, deeper resentment that can be addressed and can be worked through if you are willing to look at what am I expecting out of this? What needs or desires or expectations of mine are not being met from this other person or from what I expect of this other person? Looking at that and really questioning it and being willing to question the expectations. So, expectations can really lead to resentment. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. So, what do we want to do? We want to look at our expectations. So, the one thing that we control is the way that we think, or the biggest thing that we control is the way that we think. The Bible says that it's the tagline of this podcast, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The way that we think is where our power is. I mean, besides God, obviously. Like that goes without saying. God is our source, is God. That, like, don't question that. Within ourselves, the most powerful thing we control is the way that we think, which is also the way that we believe. Those, our beliefs are thoughts. Trusting God, that is a thought. Isaiah 26:3 says, he will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast because he trusts in him. His mind is steadfast. He's thinking on the things of God. He's trusting God, and that is when you get kept in perfect peace. So the way that we think is the most powerful thing that we can control. And our expectations are thoughts. Our expectations are just thoughts. We think, well, they should do this obviously because they're the man, or they should do this because I said they should do this. But really, those are just thoughts that we're thinking. And so, what are the expectations that we are having that are not being met that we can question? So, I have a 3-step process to manage your expectations. And this can be done looking ahead at something that you're walking into. I did a video series, I did a challenge back in November called Reset Week, and I will link those videos to this show so that you can go back and look at those if you would like. But it was coming up on the holiday season, so looking forward, if you're going to a family get together or a work event or whatever, you can do this process going into something. You can also think about, where am I resentful? Where are my resentments towards my husband or towards my kids or towards my parents or towards anybody or life circumstances? Where are my resentments? So you can do it looking forward, and you can also think about it looking back. Ask yourself. So know your expectations. Number 1 is know your expectations. Ask yourself, if you're looking back, What was I expecting? What was my expectation in this situation? What was my expectation in this relationship, in this situation in the relationship? What are my expectations? Or if you're looking forward, going into a situation, what are my expectations going into this? And I will tell you, I did a lot of work on this going into the holidays, and it helped me so much. So number one is know your expectations. What was I expecting in this situation, or what am I expecting going into a situation? Number two is assess your expectations. Are they realistic? Are you expecting someone to know what you want without verbalizing it? That's not realistic. People can't read your mind. If you don't verbalize your expectations, chances are they're not going to get met. And also, even if you do verbalize it, is it a realistic expectation? Like, I can't go from not having worked out for years to going into the gym and doing a power lift class and be able to do everything that everybody else is doing. That is an unrealistic expectation of myself. So, and of other people, is it realistic to go into a situation where a person is encouraging you and kind and loving and all of these things when in the past that person has been kind of critical and standoffish? Like, be realistic. So are my expectations realistic? And am I depending on this thing to make me feel a certain way? Am I depending on somebody else to do something or say something to make me feel better? And that is always a slippery slope and a lot of work to be done there. So, are my expectations realistic? And am I expecting something or someone outside of me to make me feel anything, any kind of way? Because again, we control our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings, our emotions. And so we're in control of that. Only we can do that. Now, it's easier in some situations than others. And that's a whole nother story. And there's a video about that in my reset week as well. And we will be talking about it here on the podcast. Don't you worry. So, number one, know your expectations. Number two, assess your expectations. And number three, reset your expectations. Manage your expectations. If they're not realistic, if I'm depending on somebody else to do something to make me feel any kind of way, loved, cherished, capable, confident, anything, any of those, if I'm depending on someone or something outside of me to make me feel better, that's a red flag. So we want to reset our expectations. Ask yourself, what is in my control? The way that you think is always in your control. And it's the simplest, not the easiest thing to fix and to change. So reset your expectations. What is in my control? What are realistic expectations to have in this situation? Knowing that they may or may not be met. So the third part of reset your expectations is, how do I want to feel? How do I want to speak? How do I want to act no matter what anybody else is doing or saying or not doing or saying? And so what do I need to think? How do I have a steadfast mind in this situation so that I'm not depending on anybody else to do anything else to make me feel any kind of way? So how do I want to feel? What do I want to do? What do I want to say? No matter what anybody else does. So number one is know your expectations. Ask yourself, what was I expecting, or what am I expecting? Assess your expectations. Are they realistic? Am I depending on someone or something to make me feel better or any kind of way? And then reset your expectations. What's in my control? What are realistic expectations going into this? And how do I want to think, feel, and how do I want to act no matter what anybody else is doing? So I'm going to link some things in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, say hi to Sniper the cat. I will be home next week, and so you get to see my cute office if you're watching the video. And I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please share this with other people if you think that they would enjoy it or benefit from it. Subscribe, give me ratings, share it out. I would appreciate all of that. Send me comments, send me messages on the Instagram, and let me know what you would like to have discussed on here. Where would you like some guidance? Or go to shannapeiser.com and schedule a consultation call, a right fit call, and we can talk about how coaching can help you right where you're at. Thank you so much for being here today.